Cool.
Check, we good?
Check, we good.
Word. We're back for another episode of the 𝘀𝘯𝘵𝘮𝘮 podcast where passions and purpose align. I'm Courtney, better known as 𝘧𝗭𝗭𝗆𝗄𝐵𝗍𝗍.
I'm Alex Black.
And yeah, we're here with a special episode. This is a guest episode. We have not done one since last year.
Yes.
And I know that messed you up. You hate odds.
I do hate odds.
So we had to settle the score and make it even.
I'm glad.
So yeah, 2025, we have our first guest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my true homies in real life.
Yes.
A dope artist, a brilliant mind, a great friend,
a fresh dresser,
swagged out.
Appreciate y'all
at all times.
You ain't supposed to talk yet. Go and be quiet. We giving you the intro. We giving you your flowers. Just put your hand out. Take on a denim champ.
Yep.
A 𝘬𝘂𝘭𝑭𝘰𝘐𝑚 connoisseur. Yo, so we have my great friend, great artist, great everything, Nick at Nite.
Clap it up, clap it up. Woo.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here with my cool in real life homies. You know, I don't got a whole lot of homies. And so I cherish the ones that I got.
Word.
So,
likewise.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all.
For sure.
Appreciate you too. We've been working on this for a little while now. I think originally we were trying to get you on a podcast last year and it just didn't work out. Like we wanted to have like a better production. We wanted to have the better equipment just to showcase the homies in a better light. So thank you for being patient with us. Thank you for understanding. And also thank you for being supportive of everything that we're doing. You've been like a major support since day one.
A staple.
Stapleton. Shout out Woo. But nah, like Nick was with us for our annual photo shoot. That's before we ever recorded an episode for the podcast.
Yep.
Like, man, you just been showing up every time. Like in the course of my life, actually, since we've been friends, you've just always shown up. Like that's something that makes you a dope person. You show up, you support.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, when you said you wanted to get the production and everything better, I thought y'all were doing a great job already. So, and I know, like sometimes you have such a high expectation of yourself and like a standard of excellence. So I already know like it was gonna be good regardless. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I'm not going nowhere. So. Yeah. What's another couple months?
Word. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because like we were a little I don't want to say insecure, but we knew that we had humble beginnings.
Yeah.
So for everyone that supported us through that trial, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thank you guys.
Yeah, that's what keeps people going, that level of support.
Word.
So yeah, we wanna actually talk about you this time around though. We're gonna stop talking about us.
Yeah.
We want to talk about you. So we've already made it known that you're my friend in real life, but we want to talk about you as a person. So I want to take it all the way back from the beginning. I want to go all the way back to the beginning. And I didn't send you an outline because I actually wanted to be super organic, like a conversation, because I'm sure I'm going to find out things about you on this episode that you and I actually never talked about as friends. So take us back to like childhood. Where are you from?
Man, you already know. And I better not hear no static either.
You're going to hear some static.
Jersey.
You're going to get some static.
Jersey. So I grew up in Central Jersey, kind of the suburbs. My family's from Rahway, Elizabeth, and Newark. So spent a lot of time out there with the family. But yeah, from Jersey. I lived in Jersey pretty much all my life except for college, where I went to SUNY Albany in upstate New York. And I moved down here to DC in 2018, but Jersey through and through.
Word. So You already know how I feel about Jersey.
You're a hater.
It's a love-hate. It's a love-hate. You know what I mean? You gotta love where you're from, but it's also one of those things where, like, I'm just a tri-state baby too. You know what I mean? So I got crazy love for Philly, but
Yeah. No, I got love for Philly too.
shout out Jersey.
Yeah.
So growing up in Central Jersey and also having lineage in North Jersey, how did that inspire you as a person?
So it's interesting. My brother and I talk about this often. Like, we had such a diverse group of friends and people around us, because like it was every culture, every nationality, every religion around us, and we had friends from all of them. So we had quite a bit of exposure to like all kinds of different people. So it's actually made it a lot easier to navigate life and just like relate to different people, and like just have a point of reference on who they are and what their culture is, even if I don't necessarily know them. Um, and just a certain degree of familiarity with just being around different people. And also, there's a certain amount of I guess grit, and not necessarily like we didn't grow up in the hood, like
Yeah.
but there's a certain amount of grit that you gain from growing up in, we weren't rich. We never felt poor, at least not as kids. And you know, we had to figure things out, and make it on our own. We had a ton of support from our parents, but just kind of navigating through different things, and setting goals and reaching them. Like, we didn't have a trust fund. We didn't have, so we had to figure it out. um so my brother and I, um and this is another thing that we kind of attribute our success to, is that we like we gonna make it regardless. Like, if I gotta work one job, three jobs, like I've done all of it. Like, I've worked
Yeah.
4 jobs at one time.
Damn.
And just like as a 20 something trying to figure it out. But we always gonna figure it out. If one thing that Johnson's gonna do is figure it out.
Word. So I did grow up in North Jersey a little bit. I spent some time in North Jersey. So when you talk about the diversity, the level of diversity, I can see how that's like a builder of sorts. Even with how I look for where I'm going to plant my roots, I'm always looking for a level of diversity. And I feel like Jersey definitely gives you that. It definitely, you know what it's like? It's like, it was like the prime location to be a latchkey kid.
It is. Yeah.
It's like you had that level of independence. You had like city, urban life, but also residential and community based. So yeah, I think that I can shout out Jersey for that. I'm gonna shout out Jersey for that. I know I'll be hating on Jersey.
It's about time.
I love Jersey. I've had friends from South America, from the Middle East, from Africa, like literally like a melting pot. And it wasn't until you said that where it actually made me go back and think about my own childhood, like going to the Boys and Girls Club and like just all of the diversity that took place in that setting.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because it actually helped me like just now. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, I think that's a gift that a lot of people don't recognize as a gift. But as you get older and you realize like that all those experiences, even just like going over your friend's house and eating different foods, and I remember so how you associate smells with memories?
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I walk in a restaurant, like I'll smell a certain type of food and it'll bring me back to, playing at so-and-so's house or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like it's a gift, like to have exposure to all that just organically. And, like being a latchkey kid, like so we grew up in this apartment complex, and we would play like complex-wide manhunt games.
Ooh.
Yo, that joint was off the hook.
With all the
Yeah,
kids, with
complex
all the,
wide?
with all the complex
Yes.
kids.
That's
That
crazy.
joint was off the hook. Yep.
Man, childhood is not the same. Like,
Not
you
at
know,
all.
when you compare,
Mhm.
man, I remember when I tried a 𝘰𝘂𝗶𝗏𝘳𝘀 for the first time, because my
Mhm.
best homie was from, you know, Puerto Rico. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
Like, so
Mhm.
yeah. So how did North Jersey, Central and North Jersey? Well, how did Central Jersey inspire you? Because Central Jersey always kind of gets the like the bad rep. It's like the
Yeah.
part of New Jersey that people just like skip over.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows
I
much
mean,
about Central Jersey
yeah.
besides like for
Rutgers.
real, besides
Yeah.
Rutgers.
Mhm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, for real, it doesn't really exist for real. Like it's South Jersey, 𝘬𝘂𝗧𝘬𝘬𝘮, and then North Jersey. Shout out to you if you know what I'm talking about.
Yo. Nah, but that's facts though.
Yes.
That's facts. So how does Central Jersey, like, how was that, like, growing up in Central Jersey?
I mean, it's like it's the suburbs, right? It's
Yeah.
like nondescript suburb, you know. And the interesting thing about the suburbs in Jersey is, like you have access to all these. Like we had a really good school district, and so there was all kinds of programs. Like I was in like gifted and talented art and music and band and we had like the Barron Arts Center in Woodbridge. Like as a kid, I had some exhibits there, like
dope.
music recitals, like all
Nice.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and so we had access to all those kinds of programs, and also just in general, like a safe neighborhood. So we could be outside without fear of something happening to us, and so I think that. But when you think about like the actual like socio-political landscape, if you will, of Jersey, like the way Jersey is set up is every township has its own school district.
Right.
So like you don't have like those big giant unified school districts. So like to your point, it's a whole lot of community based activities and things that kids can take part in at a smaller scale. So it's like, you get more opportunity to do things because there's a whole lot less competition for resources. The flip side of that is, if you're not in a great school district, you don't have access to as many things because the tax base is typically lower and there's not enough money to fund like great programs in schools like that. But in the suburbs, that's one of the things that is an advantage, where you have a higher tax base because the suburbs has more middle class families, at least back then when we had a middle class.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
So it really allowed me to take part in a lot of activities that I either continued doing or I've picked back up as an adult, like art.
Nice.
So because I took 20 years off and I just started back,
Wow.
like really doing art in 2020.
Okay.
So,
man, I remember when I did the Black is New Black podcast and we brought you on. I think we brought you on.
that was so funny.
We brought you on, and this was before 2020.
Excuse me.
We bought a fireplace, y'all, so we're gonna be coughing a little bit.
Yeah, it's hot and dry in here.
Yeah.
I might get shiny. And
we in the eating hotel, but in the library this time. But I remember we brought you on the Black is New Black podcast. I want to say this probably was 2019.
Yeah.
Maybe 2019, 2018 even, going into 2019. Maybe I think I want to say 2018, 2019.
I feel like it was more like 2020 because we were definitely in the house, and it was it definitely wasn't 2018.
Maybe 2020.
I feel like it might have been 2020.
2020, like early 20.
Yeah.
Either late 2019 or early 2020. It was early 2020 though. Like it wasn't, deep into that year.
Mhm.
But I just remember bringing you on and like Brandon and I just chopping it up with you. And at that point in time, you were not ready to share your work.
Right.
And I remember like I've literally like seen you transform through the years to now, you've actually transformed your personal account to be more focused on your art. And we'll talk about that later. But I do want to go back to you, your upbringing. So coming from Central Jersey, but having family in North Jersey and trekking through North Jersey, how did North Jersey inspire you? Because I grew up in North Jersey, so like I know how that inspired me.
Right.
But also coming from the suburbs of PA, like on the outskirts of Philadelphia, and moving back to North Jersey, I can see how North Jersey inspired me, like artistically, right? So like for you coming from the suburbs of Central Jersey, but having family in North Jersey, like Newark is like, Brick City is historical.
Yeah.
So how did that inspire you artistically?
I think it gave me a different level exposure to like Black culture, like bliggity Black culture, and just Black people and Black communities, and just I think that was it was a way for me to have proximity to like a real Black community, like where my mom grew up, in the 𝘬𝘂𝗶𝗏 section. It's like houses close together, and it's like it's definitely got a certain feel to it. And so like being around that, and being around family, and family gatherings and whatnot, I think it gave me like a good grounding in Black culture. But my parents were also very protective, and they didn't let us wander too far, and we weren't really able to get into stuff and be doing stuff that we're not supposed to be doing, that's going to be detrimental to us. So, I think the tight leash kind of, kept us safe, but we got exposed to both the good and the bad. I mean, one of my core memories as a kid is watching, a house up the street burn down.
Wow.
And like you could, like I remember, like I still remember the smell. And it was definitely a grease fire or something, and it just and so just it had like a historical feel to it. My aunts and cousins my cousins are all older, and so just kind of seeing some of the things that they were doing, and the stuff that they were into, like they were into music, DJing, rapping, so having some exposure to that but not too much, it kind of forced me to develop my own perspective on it from my sort of suburban kid lifestyle, because again, like we weren't old enough to really go hang out with them, and we just weren't allowed to go out and for real do stuff. So honestly, like I think, and I'm already like I guess what you would call like a delayed processor. So like as a kid experiencing it, I didn't really put a lot of stock into what I was experiencing then. But as I got older, and especially as an adult, like looking back on some of those experiences has informed like my viewpoint of the world, like my viewpoint of like how some of our cities are run, like some of the things that I witnessed that were just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, that's why that was like this. Right. I remember, I played basketball, and my aunt I think she was a principal at 𝘬𝘁𝘭𝗮𝗲 High. And so one summer, she's like, oh, they're having open gym. You should come play. When I tell you, I showed up at that gym, and the 𝘬𝘁𝗮𝗲 girls team, and they were good that year too. They were just like, what? Man, they worked me over so bad. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. So
yeah, man, you gotta have grit. You gotta have grit going to a school like 𝘬𝘁𝗮𝗲.
Yo,
that's super black.
And I had no concept. I had no concept.
Yeah,
I thought I was good.
That's where you find your toughness, though. That's where you find your grit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All grit and glory. That's where you find it. Okay, so, and I'm gonna have you pull the mic up just a little bit closer because we in the open. But all right. So we talking about the childhood. When did you start art? Like, what type of art forms were you interested in coming up?
Wow. So I think art was probably one of the first things that I did as a kid. So it was art and music. And actually, I may have started music first because my mom. So the story goes according to my mom. So at my grandparents' house in North, there was a piano, and so she would play Moonlight Sonata, right? And so one day she went in the other room, and I was sitting at the piano, and she heard me in there playing the melody, and she was like, "Oh my God, she can play by ear." So she put me in lessons. I don't remember when I started lessons, but I took lessons for a long time. But I've been doing art or some form of it, like even if it was just coloring in the lines, for forever.
Yeah, listen, people sleep on coloring in the lines as a child.
Nah, for real.
yeah.
It was levels.
Yes.
It was levels. I was coloring in them lines.
In the lines, adding shading, you know what I mean? Making it a little darker on the edges. Cool.
So we back.
Yes.
The fireplace is tearing us up, man.
Yeah, man.
It feels good, but it's drying.
Yeah.
Do you still play the piano?
I have one on occasion. I'll play. I just put it in storage to make room. But to answer your question about what I did as a kid, like, because I had access to like the gifted and talented programs and whatnot, I had access to all kinds of like art history teaching and different materials. Like there's one piece, and I'll actually show you a picture of it. I still do Georgia O'Keeffe.
Okay.
And she did a lot of like desert inspired pieces, and I did this oil pastel of it's like a cow skull with sunflowers in the eyes, and like vines and grapes, and so I might have did that when I was like 12, 13.
Wow.
I did a lot of like graphite and like pen and paper. I remember when I was in middle school, they were doing an art show, and we could put our art up in the hallways. So I did 4 or 5 like photorealistic portraits of rappers.
Wow.
So I think I got them from like the Source magazine, like the reference pictures. So I did like LL Cool J, DMX, Foxy Brown, Jay-Z, I think maybe Nas. Oh, I did I need to find this. The Fugees, like, so like I had all these rappers hanging up in middle school. And I feel like the teachers ain't really know like who these people were. And so yeah, like I would just do all kinds of different stuff. In high school I was doing like 3D like sculpture paintings. Like I carved like it was, I think I took like a big piece of plywood, and it was probably about shoulder height for me, and I'm like 5'10". And my art teacher, Mr. Bates, shout out to Mr. Bates. He gave me like some graffiti magazines, and he was super cool. He was like the weird teacher, but he was absolutely my favorite.
Right.
And so I did this. I sculpted a spray can, like a guy holding a spray can out of foam, and like put it on the board, and like so like the spray can part of it was 3D. And so that was, I don't know, sophomore, junior year in high school. I used to paint all kinds of random objects in school, legally, of course.
Not like me.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was a rule follower. And that'll and more about that later, about being a rule follower.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I would just do, you know, whatever, like work in whatever medium, like pen, ballpoint pen, like, you know, just like a blue ballpoint pen. I had an airbrush, just all kinds of random stuff.
Everything as a medium.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope.
Yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward then. We talked about like childhood, early adolescence, going into young adulthood. Now you're an adult. You're out on your own. You said you took 20 years off. Within that 20 years, I'm sure you've gained a ton of inspiration within that 20 years. So we can't really talk about that pocket of 20 years. It's a long time.
It is.
That's a long time. What inspired you to pick the pen up, or what inspired you to pick back up on the art 20 years later of like sitting it down?
Well, so the reason I took 20 years off in the first place, so when I went to college, I said, okay, what is the thing that's the most likely to get me a full scholarship? Because when I was in high school, I don't actually know how I had time to do that and still get good grades. Like I played soccer, basketball, softball, marching band, concert band.
Wow.
Art, AAU basketball.
So year round.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So like, and it was so crazy because like I remember at least my freshman year of high school, I would leave soccer practice and I would run ahead of the bus because our soccer practice field wasn't on the high school campus. So I would run back to the school to get to band practice earlier, and I'd sit up in band practice with my soccer gear on.
Wow.
And then get my stuff off the bus, or somebody would bring my stuff in, and then I'd get my stuff out the locker room or whatever after band practice. And like, you know, I had all kinds of conflicts of time, and I got demoted from varsity softball because I went to a basketball game on the day that our game was rained out. And so it was just like, I don't know how I had time to do all that. But when I went to college, I wanted to be an engineering major. So I got into West Point. I was originally going to go to URI, University of Rhode Island, because they have a really good engineering school. And I got a full scholarship offer to play basketball there. They rescinded the offer. And then I was like, oh, shoot. And I was kind of stuck because I had accepted the offer, and you know, I kind of, and I told the other schools. So West Point was like, okay, you know, here's the offer, but you're probably going to go to Afghanistan because that was in 2000. So by the time I graduated in 2004, I would be, as an engineering major, I'd be going to Afghanistan or Iraq, I think. And then SUNY Albany was also offering a full scholarship. And I was like, okay, they don't have an engineering school, but they have a business school. And I started to major in art, but here's where being a rule follower came in. My dad was like, you shouldn't major in art. So I listened.
Dads, man.
So, but I did find my way back into the art department though. So I would go hang out at the art and music department. We had these really, we had this like underground like piano section. It was like all these rooms with like individual rooms with like pianos where we could go play. That was dope. And then I would go hang out at the art building. And so they were like, yeah, we're going to have our department show. You should come. I was like, can I be in the show? And so I brought my art from home and I was part of like the art department.
Wow.
I didn't take a single art class.
Wow. That's dope.
And somehow I finagled my way into making this art show like a whole party.
Oh wow.
I made jungle juice and everything.
Check you out.
Not jungle juice.
So I have a very vague recollection of how it all went. But yeah, it was a good old time. And the show was up for a little while. And, you know, I was like a honorary member of the art department. And yeah.
No, that's dope.
So
that's dope.
So that's part of the reason why I took 20 years off, because I didn't major in fine arts. And once I graduated, it was time to get a job and figure things out. So, you know, I started working. I had an internship at an insurance company during college, which again was like another great opportunity that I got through knowing one of the girls I played basketball with. Her dad worked at the insurance company, and he was like, hey, we got this program. Shout out to DEI programs.
Man.
Yeah.
Right. And so that gave me a good foundation for business. Cause I was doing like, I was reading 10Ks and doing like risk assessment and all kind like underwriting and stuff like that as an intern. So, you know, I didn't get the job when I left. It just was not, everything happens the way it's supposed to. And I ended up in tech. And so, you know, being a ambitious, hardworking person who like knowing I have to always be twice as good in any environment, but specifically like a professional environment, like I just worked my butt off, and I was like, I'm going to be successful. I'm gonna forge my path and find a way to make myself stable and comfortable. Because in the first few years, that was when I was working like 3-4 jobs. I had a job at the mall. I was bouncing at a club.
Wow.
I had a whole little setup.
Yeah.
And I had like my jobs arranged. So like when I left one place, I could go do my laundry at the laundromat down the street from the second job. And then, man.
Wow.
So I had it all figured out. And then, you know, at that time, like, of course, because I was working 2-3 jobs, you know, I didn't have it financially together. So I had like this very specific like payday loan situation that I used to keep myself afloat and, you know, fill in the gaps and, you know, so if one thing had gone wrong, I'd have been
over.
asked out.
It's curtains.
Curtains.
I think it's remarkable, right? Because being your friend on this side of things and seeing how successful you are, I think that people forget when we had to fill in the gaps. They see the success, they see the reward, the aftermath. But boy, when it was time to fill in those gaps, I look back on like when even I had to fill in the gaps and just listening to you and what you had to do. I wouldn't be able to do that today. I think I would. I think that adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah.
You know, that tenacity kicks in. But I don't want to.
Yeah,
right.
That's
exactly.
I'm ready for the soft life, Lord.
Listen.
Lord, I'm ready for the soft life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that, but I say all of that to say, I'm sure a lot of people look at you today and they see the success. They see the other side, but man, you really got it out the mud.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I got it out the mud.
Working 3-4 jobs.
Yeah, but that wasn't the mud, because like I see people who for real have gotten it out the mud. Like that was not the mud. That was the asphalt.
Okay, you got it off the concrete.
So it was pavement. It was paved.
Okay.
Yeah.
The roads that grew out of concrete?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So because, I had a professional job, like sitting at a desk. I had health insurance, they just wasn't paying me nothing. But, I had a car, like I had the ability to ask for help, but I was determined not to.
Got you.
Yeah, it's a difference.
You know what I mean? And so
got you.
It was like I recognize how much privilege I have had throughout my life that has allowed me to be this successful, and not to discredit myself. Like, yes, I worked hard, and being a Black queer woman who's masculine presenting in tech, like that's a whole other level of ridiculousness.
Right.
But like all the things that have gotten me here it's a tremendous amount of privilege. I mean, even if you think about like I've never had student loans because I went to school on a full scholarship.
Right.
So I mean, that's a significant advantage, like coming out of school with no loans.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, I didn't get it out the mud. Like, I had a lot of opportunity. My parents put me in programs and allowed me to participate in like AAU basketball. It was expensive.
Yeah.
And so like those are the things that allowed me to have the opportunities that I had. Like nothing is by chance, and nobody makes it on their own.
Yeah. I think that's actually dope that you give credit where it's due. Because I think a lot of times when we think of ourselves as like, I did get it out the mud.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been struggling, pain and strife.
But then it's like,
did you?
I?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you put it in perspective.
When you put it in perspective like that,
Uh-huh.
Even if you did grow up in an environment that could be considered the ghetto, the trenches, whatever people call it today, did you have parents that tried to pour into you?
Right.
Because you're always gonna, if you had that, if you just had that, just parents who tried to pour into you and give you more and try to set you up for success. Even if you grew up in a rougher environment, you still had an advantage over someone else who didn't have that.
Right.
So I think being cognizant of that and always putting that in the forefront, I think that's actually really good. That's tremendous of you. I think also you being able to ask for help, but being determined to do it yourself. I think that's also a level of tremendousness that we need to see more of, because I think a lot of people, they sit in the pocket of their privilege and they bask in it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's actually how we should be utilizing our privilege.
Mhm.
Showing up when people do things for us, right?
Mhm.
But also showing up for ourselves when we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
that's big. That's
Yeah,
big.
that breeds like a level of resiliency when you
Mhm.
you can if you needed to, but you choose not to. So that's
Right.
dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think part of that too, like knowing that I had so much help is part of the reason I seek to lift as I climb. So, in my professional life, like I've always mentored people, um, specifically Black people who were trying to get into tech, and who were trying to find their way. I give them, I try to give the help that I wish I had, um, and mentorship and uh, sponsorship, and by that I mean if I see that there's an opportunity where they may be a fit, like I make sure that I say their name in a room where they're not.
Wow.
And I make sure I um put people forward, right? Like I've been doing this for 20 years, so over 20 years. Sheesh. Wow. um uh and so I don't need like a ton of recognition now. Like I just want to do my job and go home. But like I see other people who are excited about what they're doing and they want to do great. Like I want to be able to, lift them up and highlight their accomplishments. And so being able to do that now, like especially as a leader, like that's one of the things that gives me the most joy. Like telling somebody that they just got promoted,
Yeah.
that's my favorite part of the year.
Yeah.
And so like it's the same thing in the art world. Like I'm gonna go out and support the people. Like I'm a collector, so I'm gonna support with my dollars if I can. Like if something really speaks to me, so
Yeah.
That's what's up.
That's big. That's big. We talk about gatekeepers all the time. When we have the opportunities to give something, we should. We should.
sure.
That's definitely how we pay it forward.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, you just like streamlined right to where I wanted to go. You as a person that's in your career,
Mm-hmm.
how do you infuse the art in that?
So I actually got asked to do a thing um at work with my
Wow.
art. Never again,
Why?
because I don't get paid extra for it.
Okay.
Um and I didn't have the knowledge of how to like separate that so that I could get paid for it. And it was very thankless.
Know your worth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where cats try to not even give me credit for it.
Oh
Oh
wow.
no.
Yes. And so I try to keep my professional life and art completely separate.
I feel that.
Sometimes we have to be in those situations where we learn though.
Mhm.
There's if we're lucky, we'll have somebody to mentor us or like
Mhm.
help us pivot so that we don't fall into that pit hole. But a lot of
Right.
us have pitfalls where we get played like that.
Yeah.
But infuse the art in the sense of you have your day job Monday through Friday, 9 to
Mhm.
5.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who do view themselves as artists or people who have passions outside of their 9 to 5, they find it to be extremely hard to make time for that passion, make time for themselves. I know how hard you work just because I'm your friend in real life. So just for the audience who's watching, who might be in that crux between having to do what you got to do to put food on your table, but also having that yearning to want to embark on something that's passionate to them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find the balance?
So it actually took me a long time to find the balance because when I first started, I was my day job was very busy. I worked a lot of hours. I was I was working on some really like high profile clients, and just like it was a lot. And I was pretty much burnt out professionally because I was just overworked and underappreciated. And part of my part of my motivation to move into back into a leadership role, one, the reasons that I gave, but also because I knew that it would give me the balance that I was looking for. And so like when I thought about like what do I want my life to look like, is so like when you think about your career and your goals, like it's helpful to not necessarily just think about it as, oh, I want this job. It's like, how do you want your life to be? Do you want to travel a lot? Do you want to have free time? Do you want to make a certain amount of money? Do you want to be able to, do this, that, or the other thing? Um, and so that's kind of how I approached that. And so having more balance allowed me to then take the time to figure out how to incorporate art, my art practice in my day-to-day life. And I'm really like now just kind of like figuring it out for real.
Yeah.
Because the other part of it is like context switching. So you're on calls, talking about data and networking and AI and integration and APIs, and so you're doing that for 8 hours, and then you switch and you got to basically switch sides of your brain.
Right.
Your brain is already tired. You're probably hungry, don't feel like cooking. So you're probably not eating right because you're ordering DoorDash or whatever. And so now it's 7, 8 o'clock, and you gotta switch to creativity. So it's taken me a long time to kind of figure out that balance to how to incorporate it. And the other part of it is discipline. And as so I'm not gonna completely put this on myself, but some of the patterns that I've noticed about myself point to ADHD.
Okay.
And it's so funny, like there's features and there's bugs.
Yeah.
Right? So a feature is like being able to do like mad random, like all the things, right? So it makes so much sense why, like as a kid, like I just do everything. Like I, when someone asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd be like, oh, I want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a track star, a basketball star, an engineer. And I wanted to do all of the things.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like, I'll just, be like, you know what? I should pick up the bass guitar. That would be fun. Like, and I dead ass might actually do that. But like, that's a feature. But a bug is like kind of switching tasks. Like I'll be hyper focused at work, and then like pulling myself out of that and then focusing on something else is really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's taken a while.
I think that the one good thing about keeping your day job when you're trying to create art is being able to keep your integrity.
100%.
We talked about it a couple of times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's been a theme. Just because you and we have our day job,
right,
and we're also trying to create something that is kind of like in the arts. It really is in the arts.
Yeah.
And I know you crunch numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you're using that real logical part of your brain.
Yeah.
I'm in healthcare. I'm using that real logical part of my brain, breaking down things scientifically on a human level. You crunch numbers, so we're all using the logical.
I don't crunch numbers.
Well, you don't crunch numbers, but you're talking about that data and
Mm-hmm.
APIs and all that stuff. I don't know nothing about. So I mean, you're using your logical part of your brain, and to try to switch it off and be artistic. That is extremely challenging. It's actually extremely draining.
It is.
It's draining. And I think that, like, for those of us who still have our day job, who want to create, we have to really empathize on, like, rest. Yeah. We have to really strategize rest into, our schedule, because in order to create on a higher level, we have to have a cool down moment, a cool down time frame, so that it is an easier transition to switch over. But like I was saying, the level of integrity that you're allowed to maintain, it makes it worth it to me.
Yeah.
I really do commend people who are able to, like, leave the 9 to 5, leave the matrix, so to speak. That way they can create on the level that they wish to.
Yeah.
And shout out to the ones that are able to sustain their lives.
Yeah.
Like, I really look up to them.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they had to do some things that they weren't wanting to do in order to get to the level that they're at. And there's a lot of people who just never reach that level. Do you see yourself leaving the corporate world?
Yeah, eventually. I think what I would require to leave it, though, because so if you think about, like, how the world systems are set up, and specifically here in the US, they're set up so that your healthcare is tied to your employment. And if you want to try and get healthcare outside of an employer subsidized situation, it's going to cost you an arm, leg, and a torso.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, so it makes it really challenging to fill in all the gaps. Eventually, yes. But I think I am so, and this is part of, like, creating your life. So I've created my whole life, not just, like, separate parts of it. I've created my whole life so that, like, my employment situation is, like, the best possible situation I could ask for. Like, it is, like, it's not something that I stress about.
Nice.
So as long as I can possibly sustain that, I will. And like, there's something to be said, and I feel like this is few and far between. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, company line, yada yada yada. But there's something to be said for working for a company that supports people in ways that actually helps, and also working with people that you like, because it makes it a whole lot easier to do that context switching.
Yeah, right.
And so where we are right now in the world, if you can hold on to your employment, I would recommend that you do that, unless you are at a precipice of being able to, like, knowing that you can successfully sustain yourself financially and otherwise, without having whatever job. So
yeah. The climate that we're in is stay put.
Yeah, because man,
stay put.
You never know. But yeah, I think being an artist and, sort of finding my way and finding my voice as an artist, like I have so many ideas and like, pent up like frustration that I want to express. And that's why some of my art is is jarring a little bit. And so, but that's fine. I'll go down different threads and paths. Like I did the whole Comic-Con thing and superhero thing. So I'm gonna do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe finish this deck of cards because the blacks won't let me live.
Look, we gotta slap the
You gotta
the Miles
the
Morales
book.
on the table when I'm throwing
Yes.
spades.
Right. So I'm gonna do it for the blacks and probably be done with that.
Okay.
But yeah, so like as I'm finding my voice, finding that balance and keeping it separate has been interesting because I have my art hanging up all over the house and
Right.
my art collection. So like I'll have, some work appropriate pieces behind me so people ask about it and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah.
So that's another good transition into you as an artist. What do you describe yourself as an artist? Like, what kind of artwork do you make?
I make socio-politically critical art. I make so I've gone back and forth on Black art or art for Black people. Right?
Can you describe the difference?
So like when I think about the art that I make it for us.
Right.
Right? I think Black art is so broad and all encompassing because Black art is simply art that a Black person has made.
Right.
Right? So it could be abstract, it could be cubism, it could be pop art, it could be whatever. Like that is Black art. But I make art for Black people, right? And so I find that when we start talking about like Black art and like fine art, there's sort of this expectation of like what box it fits in. Like there's a certain sort of box that it often falls into, and it's often grounded in strife and struggle and political statements, and that's kind of where my art is going right now. And that's probably where I'll continue because I have a whole lot in my head that I need to get out. But I don't think that Black art should be limited to like our struggle.
Yeah. It's important.
So
You hear a lot of people saying that about cinema.
yeah.
Especially like, oh, we're tired of watching Black trauma. Like we're tired of taking that in. But some of the pieces that you make are tied to Black Americana, which actually is something that wasn't necessarily made for us.
Right.
It was made to mock us. And somehow you, among other artists, have taken that concept and have made it our own. So can you talk about like your inspiration for wanting to do that? Like taking Black Americana, something that can be viewed as so ugly and degrading and demoralizing, and turning it into something that we can be proud of, like, or something that we can actually maybe not even just be proud of, but look back on it and say that, you know what? Yeah, they tried to do this, but we still were there.
Yeah.
How can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I've started with it, right? Because the Black Americana, like so the bamboozled piece that I gave you, that was one of the first pieces that I made in that style, And one, Bamboozled is one of my favorite movies. Like Spike Lee's a genius. But Bamboozled, watching it it came out in what, 99?
Yeah, 99, like 99. Yeah. I think 99, 98, 99.
Yeah. So watching it as a high school, like junior or senior, like it was mind blowing. And so as I've rewatched it over the years, like I pick up something different, and I notice something different. But I think like when you look back at our childhood, like the cartoons that we were watching, like some of those cartoons were still on when we were kids.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Yo, like
Yes.
the
Dumbo.
Dumbo, Song of the South, like even
Looney Tunes, right?
Yeah, Looney Tunes.
like some of the so like the Censored 11 cartoons, like that's kind of where I started, and just kind of researching those. And like as I was researching, I'm like, I remember this.
Yeah.
Like and I think I need to see if my mom still has one of those VHSs too.
Man.
But
they try to hit us with the Mandela effect, like, nah.
You remember?
This was really a thing.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hit us with the Mandela effect on that. I remember when that big black lady was on Tom and Jerry.
For sure. With her house slippers.
Yes. Yep.
Shuffling. Yeah.
With her slippers.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, we remember.
Man. Yeah. So so to me, some of it is sort of reclaiming that. But also like reminding us and reminding anyone who sees that, like, that this was not that long ago,
Right?
And that all these things are still applicable, because the same historical themes, like the same historical events that have happened, keep popping up. And part of it is due to ignorance, because kids are not being taught history correctly or completely, number one. But two, people, the 8.5 by 11s, they be trying so hard to forget and erase that that it perpetuates itself in very short order.
Yeah.
And so taking some of those characters from that you would call like Black Americana, taking them and placing them in spots where you wouldn't necessarily expect them, or in places where they can contextually replace the original characters. So for example, like the Bamboozled movie poster, those characters that I pulled from like those Censored 11 cartoons and replaced Tommy Davidson and Michael Rappaport on the cover, and then like the picture of the little girl, like I replaced her with the character, I think it was from the original Fantasia cartoon.
Yes.
Like all of that was so contextually, it just fit perfectly. You know what I mean? And so, as you see me do more of these, you'll see like Black Americana. You'll see some, like some of the blaxploitation type cartoons, like Coonskin.
Yeah.
Yo,
Just did
Coonskin is so wild. Like
Coonskin is extremely wild.
It's wild. So
who's the artist that, I forget his name, but
Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love his work by way of Fritz the Cat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fritz.
So Fritz the Cat is on deck too.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm ready.
But yeah, so it's so like taking some of those characters and placing them contextually in modern day, in criticism of modern day events and socio-political narratives, is how I'm tying it all together. Because again, like talking about the same things that we were talking about in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, in like it's so the challenging part about that though is I almost feel like I have to tell the story of the art and also tell the backstory about why all this ties together, because we're not taught history.
Right.
And so much of it is omitted, and like some of the nuance gets missed, and it's just like, oh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's a lot, but it needs to be said. And also I'm a smart ass, so I can't help myself.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing how you said that you make art for Black people, not just Black art. Because I was actually looking at your piece that you gifted me in the crib the other day. And I was like, if someone who's non-Black or someone who is Black but not aware of the Black experience, how would they feel about this piece? Like this piece would be very jarring to them. You know what I mean? But for someone who understands it and gets it, they'll gravitate towards it.
You mean like a Black person who didn't understand?
Any type of person. Especially a Black person, especially a Black person. I think even more a Black person who is not aware of the Black experience from the whole,
Right. So you would see that and think,
you'd be
like
ashamed.
Offensive.
It's offensive. It's shameful. It's jarring. It's disrespectful even to the Black experience. So yeah, like not only do you make art for Black people, I think that you make art for Black people who are aware.
Yeah, that's
like you have to take it to another notch. Because I was really looking at the piece in the crib. I'm like, man, God forbid I bring a POC over.
Well,
they really not gonna get it.
I think it's power in like reclaiming the stereotypes that our oppressors put on us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, be offended. You know what I mean? Like it's not for you. You know what I mean?
Y'all talking about spitting out watermelon seeds. Watermelon is actually extremely good for Black people.
Yes.
Black people. I'm sorry. I gotta talk into the mic. I gotta talk into the camera for this one. Black people, we have to stop allowing the stereotypes that were placed on us by way of others' ignorance to, in fact, turn us ignorant. You need to be ingesting watermelon.
And actually...
in the sun. Get outside.
It goes beyond ignorance because you know why watermelon was demonized, right?
No, tell me.
Yeah, so I want to say it was probably around Reconstruction. Black farmers were making a ton of money off of watermelon.
I was gonna say that.
And so like white people were just like, oh, watermelon is bad. Like, only Negroes eat watermelon, and they kind of flip the narrative so that the watermelon like would be something that people would be ashamed to be seen eating. And so it's kind of carried over generations. And I think when you get to a certain point away from like the actual, what actually happened, we don't know why.
Right.
We like watermelon is not desirable to be seen eating in public.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's just something that you don't do. Like same with fried chicken. And I think the other part of like using some of that imagery is embracing all forms of Black people, because those stereotypes were based on actual people.
Right.
And those people were sometimes the most what some would deem undesirable of us. But if we're going to embrace all Black people, then that includes those people as well. And so we can't exclude someone because we don't, we look down upon them or whatever, right? Like that's not the path to liberation.
It's not the path to liberation. Liberation is all about inclusiveness of all in its entire totality. But I would like to say that the quote unquote undesirables are the ones that push the culture forward.
Bingo.
They're the undesirables are the ones that create the culture.
Right.
That is worth $1 trillion.
Literally.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we have that outlook as well. Like we want to get closer to in proximity to white supremacy.
Right.
We also have a whole group of Black affluent people who have always been affluent, even in slavery, have always been affluent, who have looked down on the quote unquote undesirables. And I think that they have also helped push that narrative.
Yeah, for sure.
When we read books like The Spook Who Sat by the Door and how he was viewed versus the people who came from stature, even though we were all viewed as the same,
right?
So yeah. I can't wait to see where you take it.
Me too.
It's about to implode. It's about to go crazy.
Yeah. I'm working on a companion piece to that, to Crime Pays.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's gonna be again, maybe a little jarring. But it's gonna be very direct. So that's another feature of growing up in New Jersey, being very direct.
Facts.
Shout out Jersey.
Shout out Jersey. I'm gonna say that just for the pod.
Man.
Shout out Jersey. But
you saw that eye roll, right?
But I think that for your work, for people to really engulf themselves in your work, they have to be in the know a little bit. They have to a little bit. I think that understanding what Coonskin was,
yes,
as a masterpiece in and of itself, and then seeing your work, it's like the weaving of the sorts. You have to you have to do your due diligence. I like artwork that makes me not only just think, but artwork that makes me research.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really like artwork like that, and I appreciate your artwork for that. It's intellectual. I think from the naked eye, though, it could be viewed as very amateur for someone who doesn't know, because they might look at it like, oh, it's a cartoon,
right? And
they have no idea.
And that's the thing, though. Like, and that's my beef a little bit with this whole fine arts establishment,
right?
Like, fine art to me shouldn't be limited to academia or academic, and I think anything that has thought and research and intentionality put into it could be considered fine art. Even some of the abstract work, like there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just like, I don't quite get what you're doing here, but
throw a grape on the canvas and throw a dart at it.
Right. Or art. Like the banana with a piece of tape, like that. Come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that, like, my art is just not for those people.
Right.
Like, if they don't see the value in it, then it's not for them.
Right.
And that's fine. It's not for everybody. And I think that it's intentionally jarring, and it's intentionally made to make certain people feel uncomfortable. And I love to one of my favorite pastimes is watching people look at art and how their body language changes and how they respond.
Wow.
So one of my favorite moments where I realized that, like, watching people respond to art was a really interesting way of actually consuming art. So my brother was a fine arts major in undergrad, and so for his final project, he basically, so we drove around Newark and took some photos, and then or I think he went to the archive first and found some photos of the city of Newark, and then we drove around and took pictures of those same places as they were like current day at that time, which was like 2000, probably 2006, 2007. And so many of the places still look the same. They hadn't been developed or hadn't been repaired from the Newark riots or whatever. But watching such an international and sort of diverse crowd look at the juxtaposition of some of those images was really interesting. And watching people who were from other countries like be sort of confused, watching white people kind of be like and then watching Black people be like
Yeah.
And so like watching how different people respond to different types of art is always so interesting to me, and the types of questions that they ask. And one of the coolest moments from that, and that was where I was like, okay, like this is something that I need to pay attention to. And shout out to my brother, like he's a Renaissance man as well. That's the homie.
Shout out your brother,
the original homie. I'll always shout him out. One of his professors was like, "Oh my God, that's my aunt's beauty shop," and he like burst into tears and like because it was burnt out from the riots and whatnot. And I was just like, wow, like the way that art can move people in the ways that you least expect, right? And so like when I create art, I don't do it with the purpose of eliciting a certain reaction. I don't do it based on what I want the outcome to be. I do it to tell a story and send a message, right? So the series that I'm working on called Sold Not Told is like the weaving of capitalism and money through everything in society. And when I started Crime Pays, this was I feel like I started it maybe before the election or right after the election.
Wow.
So it just all fell in perfect line with like what's happening in the world just organically.
Yeah.
And as I finished it, I was just like, wow, like it just all came together.
It's an amazing piece.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It is. It is. I think that you and I, we talk about the art world a lot, especially as it pertains to Black art. And I like that you make art that is uncomfortable for the others, I'll say. You make it uncomfortable. It is telling the bona fide truth. And I love that it's uncomfortable for the simple fact that the gatekeepers of Black art are not Black.
That part.
The people who dictate what fine art is, the people who dictate what Black fine art is, are not Black.
Yeah.
The average collectors of Black art are not Black people.
Yeah.
And I'm never gonna be on the side of Black people not getting their money. But I wonder how they feel when they make this beautiful masterpiece that represents them,
yeah,
so to speak, and they find it in a non-Black space.
Yeah.
Like, how does that feel? Like that, I know how it feels to be in a non-Black space as a person.
Yeah.
To have my life told on canvas. Something that I poured my soul into. To have it in a non-Black space, in a space that is so non-Black that it is not even protective of your Black ass.
Say that.
How does that make them feel? Fuck the money at that point. I'm so sorry. I have to forget the money at that point, man. That is, I mean, like seeing it, right? Like when I look at some of these museums and these exhibits and these art spaces, and I see who's buying it and I see who's consuming it, it's cringeworthy for me. It actually like kills something inside of me. It's enraging even.
Yeah, it's I can't speak for other artists, but one thing that I have seen and heard is there are a lot of Black artists who, you know, they have to sustain themselves, right? So one of the ways to do that is to get access to buyers who can spend more money on their work through galleries, right? And so that's where a lot of that other consumption of our art is facilitated through. However, there are a lot of Black artists who are now making sure that their work is available at various price points and at various levels, and will also make sure that Black collectors are able to get their hands on their artwork, because they want their art to be in a place that like really cares about it and really loves it. And so as a collector, and we haven't really even talked about like collecting art, it's so important for us as Black people to recognize that collecting art is something that we all can do. Like it could be a print, it could be whatever. But having Black art in our home is also a form of resistance, right? So we can go to our houses. We don't have to go to a museum to enjoy beautiful art. Like we can just go home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Say that.
And listen, I be having some bars sometimes. But not for real. Like I think, you know, when we think about collecting art, you know, kind of flipping the paradigm of the art world on its head, where popular art and the hot new shit is inaccessible to everyone except for the most exclusive and richest collectors. Like I don't think we're interested in doing that anymore, aside from like artists sustaining themselves. And so like when you go to a museum, it's really, like you said, it's jarring to share the space with people who are not consuming this beautiful Black art in earnest. You know what I mean? I couldn't really think of a better word for it, but they're not necessarily, maybe they are, I don't know. I don't know what's inside of people's heads, but you know, the way that they move about the space and just like with no regard and just and it's frustrating. And so it's like the grocery store. I try to go to the grocery store on a Monday or a Tuesday when ain't nobody gonna be in there. Right. It's the same with the museum. So going when it's crowded is frustrating, because you know you're trying to consume Black art and other people are being rude and inconsiderate as you're trying to consume this Black art, and it's so frustrating.
It is.
and you just want to.
I talked about it on the last episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally using, white people using Black artist props in museum and gallery spaces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, even like music, right? So
Yeah.
you go to restaurants where in a lot of cases you don't see a whole lot of us, or sometimes we might be kicked out based on dress code or whatever, but they got our music
playing.
right.
Right.
And it's just
Right.
like so yeah, it's the love of our culture and what we produce and what we create, but no love for us as people, as human beings.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating part of it, and that's part of why I make the art that I do, is because like if you're gonna look at my art, I'm leaving here with something. Like you gonna leave here thinking about something.
Yeah.
Word. Shout out Denzel.
Yo,
I'm leaving here with some.
Yeah.
Yo, Denzel is every time I see I watch Training Day often.
Yeah.
That's my joint right there.
So it's really cool that you are an artist yourself, but it's also extremely cool that you are also a collector of art. And I think it's important when you said that we too have a right to collect art, and there are ways to collect art, right? Like, but it ties back into doing the due diligence, doing your research. So for instance, I love Nina Chanel, right? Some of their work I can't obtain. It just is what it is, right? But they just put out a print the other day for $55.
Exactly.
And I definitely scooped that joint up.
Same.
Can't wait for my t-shirt to come in. I'm gonna be right on the pod wearing that joint. So yeah,
Right.
Like there are ways to, you might not be able to, and I think that's another thing, right? The need to want to consume everything. That everything has to be owed or owned.
Yeah.
I don't have to consume all of your art or all of Nina Chanel's art or Hebrew Brantley, whoever, whichever artist I love. I don't have to consume all of it in order to partake in it or to support it or to love it.
Yeah.
So I think that as Black people, we definitely have to do a better job at consuming our stuff at our rate, when we can, how we can. And yeah, like you said, it's important to, you don't have to go to a museum to see and consume great art. You should be able to go home.
Yeah.
And that is revolutionary. I mean, like, I think back to like my lineage of my family, how revolutionary it was for my grandmother to put nothing but Black art in her space. This was back in the 50s and 60s. And I remember my father, this is my mom's mom, but I remember, my father and my mother were childhood friends. And he talked about how it felt to go to my grandmother's house when he was young.
Wow.
And he said households did not exist like that.
Wow.
Black households were not like that, where you have the Last Supper and it's all Black, and you have Black Santa Claus, and you have this, that, and the third. You have Black African mask and statues and things like that. So, then it's like, now that's given down to my aunt, who became an artist in her own right, and it got trickled down to my mom, even, who is a collector of Black art in her own right, and she infused that in our household. And I literally did not grow up in a household that had anything non-Black in it. And what that formed into who I am.
Yeah.
And what my space looks like. And then I look at my friends, right? I look at the people that are in closest proximity to me, and I look at your spaces. And it's a common theme. Like, representation really matters.
Yeah.
So I think that, like, yeah, things can be consumed, but also understand that consumption is also tied into capitalism, and not everything needs to be consumed. I think that we can curtail it back a little bit, but yeah, man. Eventually, I do want to showcase you as a collector. We are going to feature you. And I do want to showcase you as a collector because your space is fire.
I appreciate it.
It's fire.
Listen, man, I just be trying to keep up with you.
Nah. You ain't keeping up with me. Nah. You're not keeping up with me. You keeping up with yourself.
Okay, all right, that's
you ain't
fair.
keeping
That's
up with
fair.
me because I don't. You know, I don't have. I think like you're like a really like organized maximalist.
Okay,
it looks so good how you do it.
I appreciate it.
Whereas I'm like a minimalist, so to speak.
But yo, like also, furniture is art. You have like some of your mid-century modern pieces.
Thank you. Thank you. I love mid-century.
That sideboard you have, like I love that piece.
Yeah, man. You know, mid-century is a thing, you know. So that's another thing. Like furniture is art, you know. Like if we can get some of our elders, if people still have elders in their lives that might be downsizing, get your elders furniture,
get them
man.
wicker chairs.
Repurpose it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything doesn't need to be, you know, fashion, what's trendy, what's in. That furniture lasts a lifetime.
It does.
It lasts a lifetime. It's quality.
Yeah. The problem with that old furniture though,
heavy as hell.
Yo. So
heavy as hell.
Quality.
Yeah, it is. So you know, so we. So all right, I'm gonna go off on a tangent about some Black people furniture. So first of all, the black and gold wall units.
The black and gold wall units.
You know the ones with the black glass and like the gold trim.
Oh yeah.
So that's a staple. Number one. My mom still got them joints.
Now we ain't had those.
But my grandmother, so we always say grandma's house, even though granddad paid for it. But my grandparents, they had all this beautiful mid-century modern furniture, and my family is like, they keep things so well and clean and just like it's all in like almost perfect shape.
Yeah.
So you know those big giant furniture record players with the speakers built in?
Yeah.
Joint got to be like 800 pounds.
My dad has one. I definitely got to go to my cousin's house and get my dad's record player.
Yeah.
Like you coming up off that thing.
Yeah.
Please,
so
you don't even listen to records.
that was always one of my favorite parts of being over there, when like especially during the holidays, because they had speakers wired through the wall.
Okay.
And so we would put on like the Christmas records and like the warm sounds from the record player would be playing throughout the house, and they have the fireplace going. And man,
my pop used to put the disco on.
Okay.
That warm sound from there's nothing that beats analog.
I was just about to say that. I just was about to say that very thing. You took it out of my mouth. That's crazy.
False.
And that's part of the reason why I kind of got back into records, like vinyl records. But you know, I think collecting all of those things can be considered art.
For sure.
And even like some of the art that I collect is actually furniture, like my coffee table.
Yeah.
Like I hit up the homie, shout out Saran. I was like, yo, you got a coffee table? Because he makes furniture. And he was like, no, but I know somebody who does. And this craftsman who he does custom flooring had taken a coffee cart, or he had taken a bunch of coffee carts, disassembled, reassembled them, reinforced them, and this particular one, he stained it in indigo. Yo,
it's crazy.
It's and it's such a unique piece, and it's like it's there, but until you like actually look at it, you don't realize that it's like part of the art.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, you know, my mom has always had Black art and really interesting pieces, and you know, just like so that has always been instilled in me. And you know, to this day, like there's like she has a couple of my pieces. We've kind of traded pieces back and forth. But like collecting art is kind of what sustained my creativity when I wasn't making art. And so meeting artists, and one of my first and favorite pieces that I commissioned was actually by an artist called 𝘧𝘭𝘮𝘬𝘳. And I have been reading about 𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘳, and I asked her to do the 𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘳 campaign poster in her style, and it came out so dope.
It's dope.
Yeah.
It's dope.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so just like it continues to inspire and sustain, like, you know, as you walk through your house, when you own art, you walk through your house and you stop, like something might make you stop and look at it. And like I find new stuff in some of my art to this day. And it just is really it brings life into the space, and
Definitely.
it tells a story, and it reflects your personality, especially based on when you bought it or when you acquired it. And so it's so important, and it's also a means to capture history.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's just a charge that we as a people have to be intentional about taking upon ourselves, because the next 4 years especially, but like even beyond that, we should be collecting and just preserving our own things. And so like even a person like me, who I haven't had much to say today because I would think that I'm not into like art as much as you all are, but when you break it down to the little things, like collecting records is we shouldn't be limited to like what they say art is. It could be what we make it. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then just thinking like, I do have black stuff all over my house. It's gold teeth and it's cornrows, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even upstairs in my room, like the it's a samurai, but a black, my guy, my friend 𝘧𝘭𝘭𝘰𝘍 made that. And the photographs is from my mom. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like I don't think that I was considering myself as a person who like is intentional about having like art and stuff in my house, but I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, even
yeah,
you know, everybody can. So
Black existence is art.
Yeah.
Our entire existence is art.
Yeah.
So even if you just put up your childhood photos, that's art.
Yeah.
If you look at things like Black archives on Instagram,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
you see now we're starting to see like, okay, like our upbringings, like our, you know, our archives is artistic. You know what I mean? Things that we probably didn't think held any weight. Yeah, it's a lot of weight in that. Spaces like Black Market Vintage. You know, yeah, you can go right to the antique store right now and find something. You know what I mean? Everything, you can find a way to collect something. Go right see a granny house, man. Like, you know, my grandmother, you know, I have some pieces from my grandmother's house that just, they don't exist no more. That's real. You know, something as simple as the salt and pepper shakers from back then, the Black Americana ones, they don't exist anymore. The cookie jars, like that type of stuff is all viewed as art. And we're not going to allow the gatekeepers to dictate what art is for us. Blackness is art.
That's it.
We're
right
art.
there.
Yeah, it's so true. And, you know, regardless of if you have a print that you bought off at Etsy, or it's, you know, it doesn't have to be a certain kind, or it doesn't have to be a certain price or whatever.
Right.
Like, just, I think it's creating the space for yourself. Based on what makes you happy, like what makes you, what gives you life and gives you joy. And, you know, looking back on some of the like 𝘪𝘯𝘬𝘳𝘬𝘳 and like the Black archives photos, and like just like it takes you back to a time and a vibe, and like you could almost like feel and smell like and hear the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's such a like we're like we have so many layers and bring so much culture and texture and swag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like when you look at a picture, even pictures from like the 50s and 60s, like you look, man, we was swaggy to the mud.
sure.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even moving forward though, right? Our descendants are going to look back on us the same way that we're looking back on others, and they're going to also look back on the same things that we're looking back on.
Yeah.
So there's also like an importance to document ourselves.
Yeah.
That more than just a selfie, like it's important to truly document ourselves. I think that Black people back then took extreme pride in documenting themselves, especially when you think back to like the 1910s and the 1800s even, you know what I mean? Like I have like family photos from the 1800s and you can just tell how they showed up to the shoot, that they took extreme pride in themselves. And I think that that's another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm art. Even how we show up, even how we leave the house, we're art.
Yeah, it's true.
In every sense of the word.
Yeah.
So
that's
man.
so true.
I appreciate you for coming on this podcast and chopping it up with us, man.
Long overdue. It's my pleasure.
Long overdue.
The first one, the Black is New Black, what was that, like 4 hours?
I don't even know, but we not doing that.
You're right. So
we used to get real deep in,
and then once we start going, and then the whiskey starts.
Man.
Yes.
So where can people find you?
Y'all can find me. My website is nicatniteart.com. That's NICATNITE art.com. You can find me on IG at nicatnite_gallery.
Nice. And once again, we're gonna feature you.
Appreciate it.
So for the audience, when I talked about that due diligence of doing further research, stay tuned. We definitely gonna show Nick at Night in their entirety. So thank you.
I appreciate you, homie.
Thank you, homie. Much love.
Yes. Appreciate you. Thank y'all. It's a pleasure and an honor. I dapped you up too hard.
It hurt a little bit.
Go ahead.
My bad. So yeah, this is the Cool in Real Life podcast. We're gonna close this out. We had a great conversation with Nick at Night. And we have more in store, more guest episodes in store. You can find us at cool__IRL. That's for all the things cool in real life. And if you want to take on a musical journey, you can find us at CIRL Sounds. And that's both on Instagram. We're not on Facebook, y'all. We're not on TikTok.
Had to get up off it. If
you are watching us, please like, comment, subscribe, please. Your support takes us further. We go a long way. Eyes get on us that may not have known about us based on your support. So please like, comment, subscribe. And if you are listening to us, drop a rating. Give us that 5 stars if you like what we're doing. And yeah, till next time.
We out.
Wait.
Oh, I got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of y'all. Like y'all are doing your thing. Like it looks great. Like everything about it is excellent. So
Thank you.
I'm proud of y'all. And thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
It's our pleasure for sure. Thank you. We out this job.
Cool.